Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the DSC Cybersecurity Workshop. I'm Rachel and I'm the Operations Associate in DSC, and I'll be hosting the workshop today. So just a short introduction on the NUS DSC. We host a series of Tech for Good team workshops and fireside chats every academic year that all lead up to our flagship hackathon that will take place around recess week. So just to note, the recording for this workshop will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. And today's workshop is actually the first of the academic year, and we'll be pumping out more information on future events through our social media channels, so do follow us there. That's it for me, and I'll now pass the time over to Darren and Haisav, our workshop host.
Hi guys. So thank you for spending your today's Wednesday with us today. Could you go back one slide perhaps? The introduction on the content slide, great. Yeah, so just a bit about what we'll go through today. We will, of course, give a brief introduction about ourselves. And after that, Haisav will bring you around the dark web, which I hope none of you don't do on a very regular basis. And of course, he'll also teach you a bit about phishing and what to look out for, because we see that this is one of the more emerging trends with regards to cybersecurity, and is also one of the more effective ones. After that, I will introduce you all to authentication concepts, the GWT token, which is a way for us to verify or have some level of validity for for some of the ciphertext data that we have. And of course, the last part is a bit more about sorting and hashing of passwords. So I think these concepts will be very useful for the upcoming hackathons that NUS, specifically SOC, are going to host. Next slide. So just a bit about myself. I'm Darren. I'm a year 3 computer science student, and I have a specialization in software engineering, but I also touch on a lot of other specializations. So I think if you're in CS, you know that we have a lot of focus areas. So yeah, that's just a bit about me. And now I'll pass the time over to Haisav, who will go through with us on the first section of this presentation. So Haisav.
Thanks, Darren. So hi, everyone. I'm a master's student pursuing my master's in AI with a niche in probably the security domain. So that's where cybersecurity comes in. And today you'll be going through phishing, which happens to be the most common thing. As we'll keep on discussing it, banks are aware, everyone is aware of the scams happening. And we'll look at the parts which are least touched upon in the security domain, which is the dark web part, which is not much explored, not much of you will know how to go about it. And let's see what slides contain. And a quick disclaimer for all of you that technology is inherently neutral, so you can use it for good, for bad, and all the information that we are presenting here in this workshop, in the speaker, like by the speakers, me and Darren or DSC NUS, so we just give it to you for your information and training purposes. We are not promoting any illegal or unauthorized activities. If any one of you on an individual level does so, you will be whole and sole responsible for it. And we do not do any personal views or endorsements. So be extremely careful where you are exploring a new territory. I mean, dark web is one of them. And this is specifically for that, because once you don't know that what can be the repercussions or what can be the goods or the bads, you should not do it, right? Always take an expert supervision. So yeah, that's a short disclaimer. And let's start. So let's start with phishing, right? It's one of the oldest cyber attacks we have in the book. Whether it's 5 years back from now, 10 years, 15 years, or I think from where computers started, phishing is one of the most effective ways to do. And normally what we say is that humans are the weakest link in the chain of security. Why? Because we as humans can be manipulated. Machines cannot, right? We have emotions. We have the feelings to understand. So these are some of the ways that it makes us weak. Now, what happened is, if you see the information coming in on the internet, so you have some poorly written text, you have lottery tickets or emails coming in, oh, you wanted this much amount. So that's okay. That was like an old way of scamming or phishing, but now there are more sophisticated ways. And today we'll be looking at the more sophisticated ones, that how you can, or even uh, literate individuals fall a prey to it. I have seen managers coming and becoming a scam of phishing, or people like us. So we'll go through all the techniques together, and let's see what do we have. Like, you'll learn a mix of what the tech has, what the human side is, and how the tech side is mismanaged. So the first one we have is mismatch between the brand and the domain. So let's say you have a brand which is said as Forever Jewelry, and you link, there's a link like this. So you see rrforeverjewelry.com and you believe that this is true, but no one bothers to actually check the link behind it. Now, what does this behind link is? It's actually a PayPal login page. So let's say you are seeing a jewelry, any girl especially, you click on the link, you have, okay, you have to pay this much, and then you enter your actual credentials for the PayPal login page. And what happens is, it takes all your credentials and redirects you again to the original page. So the first time you enter your credentials is actually the phishing page, which is taking all your credentials. And the next time you enter it, right? So once it gets redirected, you think that, oh, there might be some problem, or okay, some internet issue, right? But here the phishing was done. You give your data to the attacker, and this is how a phishing happens with you, because we're like, we as humans, we never check the links which is in the back, or what does this mean even, right? For us, this number or this thing, it's just a gibberish thing, but for computer it's something different. So this is one way that we need to be careful of, that how are we gonna safeguard ourselves. And towards the end, I'll also touch upon the preventive measures for phishing. Yes, the next we have cousin domains. This is one of the most easiest ones that you actually see. Now, I have two addresses here, like asmith@businessservices.com, and the spoof one is also asmith@businessservices.com. Right. So on a very first glance, you see that these are very similar. But if you look very carefully, like very, very carefully, you see there are three S here, right? Business, and it's a business continued with services.com. So just a letter different. And for computer, it means that these are two different emails. And for us, I mean, normally we read it as businessservices.com. Even if there's a sentence which has two the written, you read it just once, because this is how our mind is. This is how we are trained to read, right? And this is where we do not see the difference. So this is also one way that, attackers just take a deceptively similar name for targeting you. And the best example for this will be google.com. So what Google does is, it is google.com. You can have g00gle.com. So what Google has done is to prevent phishing of its own web page, and they have a huge reputation to be, you know, handled. So they have purchased approximately 96 to 100 email addresses which are very similar to their name, or people can use it in lieu of google.com, right? It will not be google.com, it will be their own phishing page, their own website, but they have just purchased it so that that reputation is not harmed and they can do their business as well, right? Reputation loss is a great loss to the business. So yeah, let's move on to the next one, which is display name spoofing. So this is typically much easier to know, and all of you might be aware of this. So let's say you see a name here, which is PayPal, and you see some normal message that, okay, your account is temporarily suspended, or an unauthorized party just tried to budge in your account. Please change it. Please change your password or login details. So normally we don't see that what is the actual email ID which it is coming from. This is like inpointline.com. This is some fake email, right? The hackers must be using some email websites like 10minuteemail.com or a fake emailer, right? But once you read this message, you normally go and change your address. So the first thing which the attacker normally do in this life cycle is, they will create a threat, or they will pose you something that there is a problem. It may be your card is getting blocked, or your money is siphoning off, or something like that. So once the threat is given, the second is they will establish a trust. How will they establish a trust? It would be a very genuine looking message. There will be no spelling errors and stuff, because they also know that, people now are aware of all this. So the first is establishing a thread, then the second is giving a genuineness and establishing a connection, that yes, we are from PayPal and we are doing this and that. And the third is your part, where you come in and you enter your details, right? Let me explain you by another example. Let's say Apple support, and the email which says is support@apple.com. So, I mean, apple.com, wow, this seems genuine, right? But once you check it with actually Apple support or what is the email ID that they have, it might be something apple.co.in, right? This might be the official one. But by reading apple.com, you normally see that, oh yeah, this is the official one. And okay, they have given it for some security reason and oh, Apple is doing it. So it must be for something of my security, right? And you just enter it. Or you can even have something like this, where the email that you see, it names James Pierre Rowling. You also have a signature written, right? This is the essential part. Like the last part here is to establish the trust that, you know, it's coming from a legitimate email address. It's all good. But once you compare this email address and actually from where it is coming, these are two different email addresses. So there you know that, yeah, this is a spoofed one. I mean, it's like I might have your address or Darren's address, right? And I might say that I might message 5 of my friends that, hey, I'm in need of $100 immediately. Can you please give it to me? I need to pay my fees or I need to apply so some company or something. And I mean, out of friendship, it's very easy that you will give it a small amount, but this small amount will be extracted from many person, right? So this is also one way that you need to be careful of. Then we have strange or complicated URLs. So if you see what I am doing here is, I'll just look at the link and you can read the text afterwards. It says wmxemail.walmart.com. So you normally see that WMX email. Okay, there's some email service which is probably been used. Then there's a walmart.com site. And then maybe you find some gibberish and then you go US West to compute.amazon AWS. So you normally think that this is a AWS server which is being used, right? The Amazon AWS server, which is hosted somewhere in the US West Zone 2. And you find it that this is a legitimate one. Now, the catch here is the number which are here, the ampersands which are used, these all are not understood by us. Or what does this colon mean? What does the dot here means, right? This all is understood by the computer very well. I mean, this is some binary thing or a text thing or a secret code which we as humans do not understand, but computer understands, the website understands. And this is where we do not bother to, you know, check back. Even if it's HTTP, HTTPS or a .com here or a .in here, there's a lot of difference to it. And even a dot can change the meaning of the whole link. So this is where, you know, we see strange and complicated URLs. I mean, you can have a normal URL like walmart.com/AWS or something like that. But then you have this extra long URL with some extra information. So this is where you can fall a prey to a global phishing attack. And by the way, this was actually done. So this is like a real case study thing to you. Now, this comes to my favorite part, which is homoglyphs. And I'll just explain that there are some things in the internet which we known as Cyrillic symbols. So what this Cyrillic is, let's say this is facebook.com. So, you know, just as we did in google.com, you can replace this O with a 00 or something. Now, just see that where my mouse is. Maybe I can like show you a pointer. Okay, let's see. Not. But let's say if you see this one, I'll go to this website. So you come here and you type in NUS. So what happens is, so just be careful. Like whatever I am writing here, you will get a third output link in this one, right? So let's say if I take a capital N, so it gets changed. I mean, normally we see all the ones as N only. Let's say if this is N, this is small n 274, capital N 274, N FF4E. So now these numbers which I'm talking about, this is only understood by the computer itself, right? We as humans cannot distinguish that whether it's a small n or a capital N. For us, it is just one and same. So let's say I take up this N. I'll take up this U. And maybe I'll take up this S or something like that. So what normally is the case is that the hacker will try to make it mostly similar that you cannot distinguish it. Let's say if I have something like this written as NUS, so you'll most likely find that, okay, there might be a spacing or there might be something, but this is the most genuine thing which I can have. And when you click on this link, you'll be redirected to a new phishing page, right? So this is just a general link. I have not attached any link behind this, so you'll not see anything. But this is how you can, you know, just go in. Or let's say if I write Singapore. So, I mean, you can do this thing, right? You can just keep on selecting here that what do you want to do? Do you want to change it, or do you want to keep it as it is? And you can see that, oh, what's happening? Is there a problem, or how can I, make it more legit that more and more people get in? So this is much of it, which I leave it to you for exploration now. But this is actually a very good thing. And most of the browsers had this vulnerability. Let's say last year when Log4j was introduced, even this was one of the most crucial vulnerabilities which no one was discussing. And yet some of the browsers do exist. So if you're into bug bounty or stuff, just do it. Yeah, so correct. Let's move further. And anyway, if you have questions coming in between, feel free to just drop it at the Pigeonhole link, and me and Darren will take it after the session. Right. So and feel free to ask any of the question. Right. No question is, I cannot ask this. Oh, how will I feel? Or oh no, this is something very basic. Just feel free to ask, because if you ask, you'll get answers to it. Yeah, so then some of the more common ones which you might be aware of, that emails demanding urgent action coming from someone from the authority, like they will spoof the email address and it will show that it's coming from a professor or a bank manager or something like that. Then URL shorteners are also used. And in that, multiple redirection is something which is an add-on. So what I'll do is, right, we see something as a long URL here. Instead of this, or instead of the fake PayPal login page that we saw on the very first slide, I will use a smaller URL. I'll make use of the URL shortener to make it a smaller one, so that you don't know where it is redirecting. And once you click on it, after redirection, it will go there. So this is also one way of looking at it, that how URL shorteners are used. You can just type in the Google, like, where does this URL redirect to me? And you can see that whether it's a legit site or not. Now, there's a very cool website which I have listed down here, and I like to show you a demo for this. Give me a moment. Yeah. So I'll not go in much detail. I'll leave it for you. But you see that this website is like india.gov.in. So I mean, Indian websites, Indian government websites have normally this domain, which is .gov, which means it's a government authorized website, and then .in, which stands for India. So, and you see your computer has been blocked, and the message described is, your browser has been blocked due to repeated visits to pornographic websites containing materials prohibited by law of India, namely pornographic, promoting pedophiles, violence, and homosexuality. And then you are, demanded some 30,000 rupees as a fine, and you must pay it within 12 hours. It's a Delhi, which is the national capital of India address, and right. So if at all, I mean, by any chance, if you were visiting some pornographic material and this comes up, this would just blow your mind. You are done and dusted. Because this gives me an impression clearly that the government is aware what I'm watching. I'm being tracked, and now they know each and every detail of mine. Right. So this is one part, where a serious threat is given to you. And this can be very legit thing. Even if you are doing it today, I mean, God forbid, don't do it. Do it in your own private space. But then even after 2 days, this website comes to you, you will be like, oh, I did something like this, and back of the mind what is happening, right? So normally the websites looks like this, which is https www.india.gov.in. So you see, it's a very legit web page which is made. It is india.gov.in. There's the prime minister photo. There are a lot and lots of things. But when it comes, right, okay, let me reload it. I mean, there's a photo which was not loaded. So give it a moment. Yeah, so you have like the first one that, okay, even if you see, I don't know if the screen share, this is visible or not. In the address bar, you see Home Affairs Enforcement / police. So normally after seeing this link also, you will believe that, yes, it's a legitimate site, and, there's something which I have done. But this is just a fake page. And once you are into this, there are many things which run into your head. There are, a fear, a sense of insecurity, and everything will just run in. So be very careful and feel free to explore this site. It's actually a very nice website, and CloudSafe has written a really good article of explaining all the different mechanisms that can be used. Right. So coming to the last part, which is domain wildcarding. So what happens is, uh, we use different languages. It's HTTP, HTML, CSS, C++, JavaScripts. So normally at the rate is one symbol which is particularly very much used. You even use it in your passwords and stuff. So what happens is we give security to our browsers, to our websites, but we forget the search box, let's say, or the comment box. So there you can execute some JavaScript or some kind of XSS, and different symbols. Like even if it's a added symbol, it might have a different meaning in different languages. So this can be mistakenly interpreted, and we can make a fool of all the security filters that are there. Right. This might be very familiar to year twos and year threes who are into the VAPT side, the vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. And for year ones, this is just to explore that, you know, you sometimes make the browser very secure. You make your main door very secure, but you do not seal the windows, or there are some backdoors which you can just come in. So this is using that clever trick. So this is one way that attackers come in. Let's say even if the entrance is very secure, you leave some loopholes in your backyard, and that's why I can just come in. And you will be seeing these messages very frequently coming from your bank, that there's some transfer which has just occurred, and they give it as very legitimate ones, right? They'll write that, okay, $1,000 has been transferred, this is your account, this is time, if unauthorized, call on this number. Now this number, mind you, this is also a fake number. So the moment you call, you give a call to the attacker or the phishing person, right? The person behind this whole racket, and he will only answer your call. So you feel that it might be a genuine number, but it might not. Then also look for something like SGDBS or GCCN, where these are not legitimate DBS messages, and you end up clicking on this link, or when you read that your card is temporarily blocked. So I mean, the first instance or the first reaction is, oh, let me call the bank. What has happened? Let me check it online. So if any of this message comes into you, make sure that you use the legitimate resource. What can be the legitimate resource here? Using the application that you have downloaded of the bank, right? DBS has a very good application for your mobile phone, or use internet banking for that matter, right? Do not ever click on this link directly and see if something is happening or not happening. Because once you click on this link, if at all, even something might not have happened, after you clicking on the link, or after you calling this unauthorized number, it might cause you a harm. So be very careful here. So till now we have discussed many methods, that how are we becoming a fall prey to phishing attacks, become victims, or how are the attackers very smart? How are they even motivating us to click on the fake links and websites? So how can we prevent? That's the biggest question we have. So there are like broadly 6 things which you can consider, which is using a spam filter, especially in your Gmail or whichever mail you use, Outlook or Yahoo. Then updating security and software regularly, right? All the security patches that come in, please make sure that, let's say, if not daily, then on a weekly basis, you keep on doing it. So this might safeguard you, sorry, from all the new attacks that are coming in, or all the new vulnerabilities that are discovered by the companies, right? You can use a multi-factor authentication always. Block all the unreliable websites, like the ones which you are not sure that this might be a phishing page, or even like today the browsers are more intelligent in the sense that even they can show you that, oh, this might be a phishing page or something like that. I mean, this warning comes up, so you can block that. Do not click on any links or attachment unless you are sure from who is sending it, and it must be not be a phishing one, because once you click, there is always a chance that a malware is downloaded, or you click on some link which leads to a malicious page, and that might harm your computer and all your data. And as it might harm all your data, the connecting to it would be to back up all your data, if not daily or weekly, maybe monthly or twice or thrice a month, maybe, like in 2 months or 3 months, you can keep backing up your important data, whether it's your reading material, your study material, your personal photos, family photos and stuff, or your friends, your outing trips, or something very personal, right? So you can keep following this. And above all this, like above all these 6, I always say that awareness is the key. Like the more you are aware, the more you are aware of what all stuff is going on in the industry, in the country, I mean, in general, in public, you will be safeguarded from phishing because that's the only way out. Oh, so a lot of you are now aware of how the phishing happened or how can we, keep securing ourselves. And this is much more on the awareness part that you can be aware. And now comes the most interesting part for which many of you are here. I am very sure of that, just exploring what are we going in, what is this dark web concept, or what is this are we talking about. So let me tell you that anything that we do here today is again a disclaimer that it's just for an information purpose and just for representation. In no way that we are promoting any of these things that we are demonstrating here. Yeah. So normally what we use is websites. We visit, social media profiles like Facebook, Google, Instagram, YouTube. So this is all is the surface web. And this is like, what do you say? Tip of the iceberg, right? So this is what you can see essentially in the picture. The surface web that we use today is hardly 4 to 5% of the internet that you normally visit or see. I mean, in your wildest of dreams, you cannot go or imagine going beyond that. While there is something as deep web also, where you have net banking and more, in-depth research paper analysis, medical records, hidden wiki, private networks. So, I mean, as students, we do end up reading research papers or we do net banking, but this is also very shallow level, to be honest, right? Because then you're not a member of any private networks or hidden wiki links. And I mean, you should not be unless you are into some dark things. And yeah, then comes the most unexplored part, which is actually whether all the treasure is. Sometimes people say like this, sometimes people say that all the illegal stuff happens here, which is the dark web. So you have Tor browser, you have some illegal information, you can stay anonymous and do whatever you want, or anonymity, right? Many today want that I should be anonymous, no one should know or who's the person behind this. And some people find it cool also. So I don't think that it's a cool thing to be anonymous, but that's just a personal view. And then you have something as Silk Road also. Now, Silk Road was a very famous website hosted on dark web some 5-6 years back, and I mean there was a big case. No one could catch the person behind Silk Road, but it was somewhere in 2012, 2013 that IB Intelligence Bureau got some lead, and then they traced back, and then they actually caught the person behind Silk Road. So this is a very famous case study that people do it now because it's officially down and taken down from the internet. So now to access all of this, to access surface web, we have web browsers, right? We have Google Chrome, Safari, Mozilla, and even deep web is very easy. For dark web, we have actually special browsers. And one of that special browser is actually a Tor browser. So Tor is actually a easy to download thing. You can just download it by a click. So there's not much of a thing. It's an open source thing. But please remember that dark web is not synonymous to Tor browser. It's just one of the ways that we'll be looking in. And let me take you through how Tor works. So normally what happens is, let's say if Alice and Jane want to, have a conversation over internet. So the first thing is Alice can make a direct link to Jane. But what Tor does is, like, what is the extra layer of security or anonymity that people talk about is that first Alice will connect to this computer or this computer node. This computer node will connect to this, then this to the third one. And now this third computer or third PC will connect it to Jane. So let's say if Jane has a browser, Jane in its Wi-Fi router or switch traces back, it will get the IP address for this computer. And it will think that this is probably Alice or his or her friend or a colleague or anyone. So now let's say you are here and you want to trace back from where did this message come in. So you will get the address for this computer and so on and so forth. And these all links that you show in green are the encrypted ones, and this is the unencrypted one. So what happens is, like, when I say encrypted, it's like all messages safe. If you even try man in the middle attack between these two links, so you will find some gibberish link, but you will not find the exact data unless you have the key for it. And I think more of this you will learn in Darren's part, where he'll take you through why encryption is important, how authentication is done. All right, so I'll leave it to him. So yeah, there's much of a talking that we did now, and let's see some practical. So you'll get a more idea of what we are talking on, what is the hands-on that we are doing. So yeah, give me a moment. Let me go for full screen and let me sip a water. Okay, so let's say if I write National University of Singapore, that's the institution that we are in. So this will take about 2-3 minutes to just, two, 3 more seconds to download. It's not very fast and it's not very, speedy like Google Chrome. Okay, so right, this seems a very genuine thing. Right, National University of Singapore comes in. Oh, there's some location also, like United Kingdom. Okay, let's see. And by default, Tor browser uses DuckDuckGo as the internet search. So if you click on the lock icon here, right? So what you will see is you will see a circuit which is known as a Tor circuit normally is created. And what this Tor circuit is. So from this browser, it goes to Germany, then it goes to the US, and then to the UK, and then to DuckDuckGo. Now with this DuckDuckGo is actually my computer through which I am, just now connecting with you all. So let's say if I trace back, I'll get an IP address or the MAC address of a UK based system, right? If let's say you did a crime here, so you actually find out the IP, you'll trace back to UK. From UK, you'll go to the US, and from US, you'll go to the Germany. And from Germany, you can actually know that who was the person who actually existed, from where it was coming in. So in this case, it would be Singapore. So let's say if I click on the university website anyways, and this just loads in. So if let's say you are the website owner, what will you see that, oh, there's a signal coming or there's a person visiting my website, which is from UK, right? Now I'll see, right? I clicked here intentionally. So now you see that the circuit that we were talking got changed. It comes in US, Netherlands, then again US, and then again some new browser. And you can also, click here and make a new circuit. So this gives you a 3-layer anonymity, right? I mean, there are many browsers which gives you 6. There are browsers, I mean, there are programs which can give you 20 layers also. And now let's say what can be the most annoying thing here. The most annoying and difficult thing could be getting countries here which are, which don't have good terms, good relations. Let's say India, Pakistan, or Russia, Ukraine, or Israel or Pakistan or something like that. So, I mean, diplomatically, they don't have very good relations. So what will happen is that, let's say if a police or the officials from one country demand information from the other, so that not might be, very easy to get in. So this is one way of looking at it. Right. So yeah, that is one thing that which you just saw. And okay. Okay. Give me a moment. Yeah. Right. So this is just a screenshot of what we just saw. Right. So now, yeah, this here comes a more interesting part. So you can see here, this is the program which I made in Python, and I mean, my script is running in the background. But I cannot obviously disclose the program for security reasons, but it gives some links like this. And if you see that there is an extension like .onion. So now this is a typical extension that you find in all the dark web links or all the illegal things that you might be thinking, maybe drugs or, heroin or cocaine or weapons like that, or pirated movies also to that matter. Because dark web, as we say, is such a dark place where you can hire someone like a hitman. I mean, as we see in James Bond movie, someone is giving a bribe to kill a person or something like that, right? A sophisticated killing, like honor killing. You can get some weapons and things which you cannot just think of also. So do not access this link anyhow if you don't know what you are visiting. And so this is also one way that you should be very sure that what are you opening. These links keep on changing, right? A point of caution here for everyone. These links keep on changing. So don't think that, this is the same link that you can just copy paste and go on. No, this is not like that. And I have some photos for you. I'll not show the demo as of now due to the seriousness of the work that we do here, right? But you can have, drugs like this. And right, so I was talking of the program that we made. So the program that we made, instead of the 3 relay network that you normally see, the 3 country relay, it goes to on to a 6 number, right? Relay, 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 Denmark, US, Germany, and then the browser. So this gives you more level of anonymity, and all the things that you see here, we are no way promoting it or endorsing it in any way. And even you should not do it. It's unethical and against the law. And all the payments that you do here are through Bitcoin. So you must have something in the Bitcoin domain just to remain anonymous, or just, no one can trace back. So this is much of, this is just actually a glimpse of what the dark web contains. There are many more things which you can just go on, keep on doing. And it's actually more of, on a personal level that you can go in. I'll again have this disclaimer that do not just dive in if you don't know how to do it. Please take advice, please take some expert help. Don't go on YouTube and just keep on searching how to do it, how to do it. Reach out to any one of us who is much more aware of all the laws or all the dangers that you might be facing. And yeah, I mean, I leave up to this. Stay safe, keep exploring, be aware of all the new phishing things or the scams that are, happening currently in the market. Keep exploring different security features, because being in the computer science domain, we must be safe and we must keep on to that. So yeah, thanks all, and keep posting in questions. I'll pass it on to Darren now. Over to you, Darren.
Okay, thank you. Haisav, yeah, I'll share my screen. Right, so let me just once again paste the links in the Zoom chat if you want to access the materials that I use for this workshop. And yeah, as Haisav mentioned, I think it was very interesting for all of you all to see some of the dark websites. I don't know whether that link is still live. I hope not. Yeah, but I think one thing that we can take away from it is with great power comes great responsibility. So as university students yourself, especially if you go down the cybersecurity route, you might find that eventually you have to use these technologies so that you can go about doing your research, for example. So just be responsible in how you use the information that you have. So I think now we're at the part where I think some of you are more interested in, because it's with the view of the upcoming hackathons that SOC has planned for you all. And what we can do as developers is to really try to make it such that we can help to ensure that our users they don't become easy prey for attackers. We also want to make sure that our systems are robust. And one of those key areas, which I think often gets overlooked at because it's so simple, is the part on authentication and how user accounts are managed. So this is the part that I'm going to go into. And just a reminder that you can easily join us at the Pigeonhole link at the top left of our screen. So without further ado, we're going to start on this section. But before we do, I'll just give you a brief idea of how we're going to go about it. So you would realize that if we go back to this slide, all these are just methods to go about achieving authentication. If we were to go to the marketplace, for example, there are many other different ways that you can go about it. So what is more important is that we understand the ideas of what we are doing and why we are doing it. And what we have chosen for today is, quite frankly, just because they are the more simple ones that we can drive our point across. But if you're going to build an application yourself, you can realize that even if you just go on YouTube and to find some tutorials, many of them will use different technologies, and that's fine. So that's where you can do your cost-benefit analysis and see which one is better for your case. So let's start off with authentication. If I were to boil it down simply, it would just be that you are who you say you are. And what do I mean by that, right? So if we think about many of the very common YouTube tutorials, for example, you see that they have some sign-up system where a person can put in their email and their password and they can create an account. But as you might already know, if I can just create an account based on the email and the password, there's nothing stopping me from, say, using your email to create an account for you and impersonate as you, right? And that is where authentication is so important, because we want to ensure that the account is only used by the user themselves and not some third party. So what we see in this space is that the industry practice now has really been that, yes, you can create the account, but what we want to do is that we want to have some form of verification as well. So that's why we normally receive like verification emails to ensure that the person who used the email actually has access to the account. So that is contingent on the fact that the user is able to access their own email. But I'm pretty sure you can think of some situations where a bad actor might have access to the email as well. And during the practical later, which I will show a bit, I can also show you one of the weak links, which is a bad practice, but I think many of us do as well, which is we use multiple accounts on our computer and we don't log out of them. Yeah, so an example of why this is bad is you can impersonate as someone else. I thought this screenshot was rather funny. But if there is a Thomas Edison in the chat, please do not feel offended by it. But I think the guy is probably dead by now. Yeah. And yeah, so how do we do authentication? So one popular method is 2FA, which I think most of you would have experience in, because that is, I think, what most of the banking applications use. The idea is really based on the fact that you know something and you have something. So the have part is usually the password. Sorry, the no part is your password, and the have part is something that's unique to you. So something like a fingerprint. And that flows into our next point, which is biometrics. So if you've came back from overseas, you realize that you can go through usually the express part where you can just scan your iris and they would maybe scan your fingerprint as well. And you can verify your identity and just get into Singapore quickly. So biometrics is one way that we can use to authenticate people as well. And I think that's the preferred one. So if you're going to build an application, try to integrate something like fingerprints, because I think that will really make your application stand out from the others. Right, so a bit about what we're going to do today. We're using Google's OAuth v2. So what this does is that it allows us to check with Google that you have their account and you can access it. So therefore, if you're creating an account on our website, for example, there's a likelihood that the person creating that account using that email is that person himself. If you don't like Google, there are other websites such as Facebook and I think GitHub as well. So they have APIs and they can be accessed through Passport.js. So you can take a look if you're interested. The link is embedded in the slides, but I think a quick Google will bring you to the right website as well. So the next concept that we're touching on is JWT tokens. If you were to really go by the definition, it's about how the whole token is defined. But I'm going to sum up the key points, which is it is delivered as a JSON object, and it uses a format, it uses encoding or encryption. And today's case, we're going to use encoding for this part. So why is it important, right? Because encoding or encryption, what it does is that it transforms your data into some form of other data, which is a lot harder to understand. We call that ciphertext. If it's in encoding form, it can be so-called translated back, but if it's encrypted, that requires a certain key. So I think the next slide, yes. So there's a difference between that, which is what I mentioned about encryption and encoding. Encryption requires this key, while encoding is more of like a translation. So if we were to illustrate what it means, you can think of encoding as sort of language translation. So if I were to translate, say, hello in English to German, I think it would be Guten Tag. Yeah. And if I were to convert Guten Tag from German back to English, it would be hello. So that's encoding for you, because it's some publicly known standard. And if you know the mapping, you can sort of derive back what the answer is. As for encryption, what it does is that it uses a key, which is something that ideally should be unique to yourself. Then let's say if we were to use the translation analogy again, hello could be changed to something that no one understands. But if you use the key, you can convert that something back to hello. There are a bit more concepts behind keys, such as symmetric keys, asymmetric keys, and even public key infrastructure, which if you're interested, please go and take a cybersecurity module. I think you'll learn a lot and you'll have a lot of fun time doing capture the flag missions. Yeah, so what we're doing, just a bit of an explanation on what we're going to use today. Google OAuth. This part we're using encoding, not encryption, but Google OAuth has the capability for encryption as well. I think if you follow the setup slides, you'll realize that there's this Google client secret. That secret is what's used for the symmetric key operation. And the last part is about passwords. I would hope by now that most of you do not store raw passwords. At least know that storing raw passwords is a bad idea, because if you were to store a raw password, you know, if you're an attacker, if you can access the server, then you can access everyone's account. Then maybe if we were to build from that idea, right? Let's say, why don't we try some form of hashing? But the issue with hashing is that if you were to use the same password, it would result in the same ciphertext, the same hashed output. And that's where SALT comes in, because what SALT does is that for the ciphertext that we get out of it, it's going to look different despite having the same input. So I'm going to show you later during our demonstration as well. But yeah, what is it is just that it's a method to go about creating an output based on an input. And even if the input is the same, you might get a different output thanks to the SALT. And yeah, why is it important? It's because hashing, it's a very fast function. It allows us to derive the output very quickly. And from the output that we derive, we actually by right cannot get back the original input. That's the fine difference between between encryption and hashing. It helps us to preserve the confidentiality of data. And if you've been in cybersecurity long enough, you know that the three pillars are confidentiality, integrity, and authenticity, if I remember correctly.
Availability.
Availability, yes. That's why he's the master student. Yeah, so this helps us to preserve the confidentiality part of it, because it's only one way, but you can't get back the original input from the output. So how does our specific SALT and hash work, right? As you can see from the picture, there's this part, there's a standard format to it, but the SALT and the hash part is, I think, what are the important parts, along with the rounds. So it tells us how many times it has been hashed. The first part, bcrypt, is the library that we're going to use today. I believe it uses the blowfish algorithm. So that's one way they can go about deriving the SALT, for example. And the key point is that the SALT introduces freshness to it. So the hash that we are going to get out of this operation, even if we put in the same password, is going to be a different hash every time. So yes, a bit about an introduction to what we're doing. bcrypt.js is for Node.js specifically. And yes, hashing is not the same as encryption, because in encryption, you can get back your original data, but in hashing, you can't. So it's something like this. At most, what you can do with hashing is that you can put in two inputs through some algorithms, or as I call it, black box magic. You can try and compare the two hash outputs to see if they're the same. While as for encryption, if you have the key, you can eventually derive back the original data from it. So let's do some live demonstration. And okay, cool. So this is a little application that I built. As you can see, the UI is not very great. So you can probably tell that I'm not a front-end developer. Right. The code for this is shared with you on the link, and also it's in the slide. So I think what you would see with many of the online tutorials is that they will show you something like this, an email and password. Then once you try and sign up, for example, if I were to use test@test.com password, if you were to sign up, okay, so my account has been created. Then what it would do, this is where the database is for all of my users. Give it a while to load. And you can see my email is here and my password is also there. I don't know if I can zoom in. Fantastic. Oh no, not fantastic. There we go. Yeah, so as you can see just now, I only use password, but what is stored here is this ciphertext, which unless you're the machine or you know the algorithm, otherwise you don't know how or what it means. So let's try a different thing, which is just now we use test. And we're using the same password again. If we use the same password, what you see that what we have is actually different. Zoom out a bit. Yeah. So originally we only used test@test.com. This was the password that we got. But with this new account, you can see that even at the end part of it, it's already different from what we had here. The only same part is this, for example. So this is also the same because I use the same number of rounds, but the subsequent parts, they're actually all different. And that's the whole point behind the sort and hash part. Because if you were to imagine yourself as the attacker, even if you were to retrieve this database full of passwords and all, it would be hard for you to derive that these two were from the same password that was used. So that's what we want to do in cybersecurity, which is we want to make sure that in the event that the attacker has some means to compromise your system, the only way they can go about it is using brute force, and brute force in the worst possible problem space. So as you will probably, I think as you might suspect already, many of the cybersecurity breaches, they're from brute force attacks. But what they do is that they really narrow down the sample space. That's how they get access to accounts. So if you were to try, if you are interested, you can look at things like padding oracle attack, I think. What this does is that if you can even use, there's this leak of like commonly used passwords online. If you were to create a script and try to like scan through all the passwords and try to access some people's account, you might be able to access the account, especially if they use something like password123. And that's what the attackers think as well. So that's what we try to do, which is if they only have access to this, it will be hard for them to derive the original one. And for the online one, something like a Oracle, that one will be a bit more advanced, which we will not cover in this topic because that would involve a bit about software design, like how to throttle requests and all. But yes, so just to prove that the thing is working, yeah, oops, yeah, I used the wrong password. That'll be awkward. Oh yes, okay, cool. Right, so since I'm logged in, let's see what's happening here. The token, as you can see right now, I don't know if you can derive anything from this, but I certainly can't. But this token is from Google's OAuth themselves. So they give you this token. What you can do is that you can decrypt it because we know that what they use is a base64 URL. So whatever you get, you can run a function to decrypt it. And in fact, in Node.js, it's very easy. There's a library for it. So this is what the decrypted token gives us, is actually a JSON object. And in this case, I only stored, say, the email field. So if you were to build an application on this, you can imagine you can store some other fields in it. And you can save as a token and use it as a cookie for your website. So next time users, when they access your site again, they perhaps don't have to go through the login process. One thing to note though is try to have a timeout, because otherwise, if you allow your users to stay in the same website forever, eventually if a bad actor gets the laptop, they can access the same account. So going back to the base case that we established, which was the usual stuff that you get from YouTube, how can we improve this, right? So we know that being able to access the email field is a potential point of failure. Maybe what we want to do is to restrict the ability for users to type in their email. So if you were to imagine that I can't type in my email, right? Then how can we go about identifying ourselves to create the account? So one way is to use OAuth, and Google's version of it is that you can see here, if you're not signed in, then you actually have to sign in. But in my case, I am actually kind of signed into my accounts already. So it helps me to populate my field because I'm signed into my account. But if not, I actually have to sign in first. Then it will allow me to fill up the field for the email. So as a developer, what this does is that it helps us to ensure that at least whoever that is creating the account has access to their email, which is most likely the person himself. But there's still a chance that the person creating the account is not the person who has access. The person creating the account is not the same as the person who has access to the email. So what do I mean by that is like this is my private email, which please do not send me spam email. But on my laptop, I have access to my gaming accounts too. That is actually so that means if you're an attacker, you have access to all my accounts and you can create accounts on my behalf. I think that while it is not the ideal scenario, it's really a trade-off between usability and how secure you want your system to be. So this is maybe one area that you can consider, which is to, rather than allowing users to just create accounts at their own free will, have some form of authentication available to make sure that when they're creating an account, it's already genuine, or at least they have access to it. Then, of course, on top of this, do something like use a verification system that will really help you to double down to really make sure that the person actually has the access to account. Because if an attacker uses my account right now, if they were to use it on their device, they can't say access my same email because they don't have my email password. So yeah, I think that's mostly it from my slide. And yeah, I think that's it from me. Let me see. Oh yes, please feel free to continue to ask the questions at the Pigeonhole link. Yes, what else is there? So I think that's it from me. Do I pass the time back to Haisav now?
No worries, no worries. We'll wait for 1-2 more minutes so that everyone can drop in their questions. I see that 1-2 questions are coming in.
Okay. Oops. Yeah.
Darren, do you want me to share the Pigeonhole link?
The link is here though. Yeah, sure. You can share it in the chat. And are you gonna share your screen now or soon?
Okay, I'll go in that.
Okay.
Okay, so there's one question coming in. We'll wait for few more minutes.
How to detect homoglyph? That's a good question.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with him. So Sheehan, that's a really nice question. That how do you detect it? So I'll take this question in two parts. First is the manual part, which we'll be looking in, and the second can be on the security of your own browser, of your own website, and on the enterprise level. So we'll take it this way. So when it comes to manually, looking in that, how can we check that whether, let's say, you're given a URL, this is there or not. So you can just type paste this URL in maybe like a simple thing as Microsoft Word, and just look for how many characters does it have, or which core of it does that contain, right? So this would be the most manual way. And to be honest, manually it's a little hard. but you do have online resources where you can just say that what are the different no just go in and type it in Google that attack generator. You will get the link which I just showed you. You can write a attack detector also. So there are things in place and you can use that. Now coming to more on the security aspect, especially with regards to the hackathon that we are planning, or anything related to browser that just Darren just showed. So you have JavaScript libraries. I mean, there are inbuilt libraries, so you can just write npm install homogilf attack generator or something like that. I mean, I'm forgetting the library name. It's homogilf search or something like that. So what happens is by default in the backend, it will check that whether it's a homogilf link or not, and based on it, it will return you. And coming to a more macro level, where like how companies use this. So IBM has a very good system as QRadar, and this might be very familiar. When you come into the market, IBM QRadar is a wonderful thing, and it has all the security features that you mostly want. And homogilf attack, generator, attack recognizer is also one of them included. So I think this answers the question that how can you actually generate it. And let's say if you want to do some more discussion, feel free to go through some research papers on Google Scholar. There's a lot of research which has been done, and you can also look onto the Chrome settings which they have for homogilfs. So yeah, Darren, would you like to take the next question?
Okay, cool. So let's see. Pigeon asks, is there a way to force Android to use proxy for all its applications? Sorry, what do you mean by use proxy?
I guess, let's say if you are talking of, when we talk of anonymity in Tor and you are talking of using a VPN or something like that. So some way or the other, it's there a company, whether it's a free link, I mean, free VPN service or a paid one, it normally locates all your IPs. It normally, stores each and everything that you search or that you explore. So what happens is, let's say if some crime is committed and that IP comes in, or your Android device comes into the, as a link to the police, then they will normally ask the company to give them all the official details, and company would be giving it very easily. They would not say that, we have a policy like this, because, I mean, to be honest, no company wants to deal with the government in a harsh way, and that's also safe for them. So if you are trying to, generally say that using some kind of proxy, then you can maybe be a little cautious there, that how are we looking at it. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, if the person who asked the question wants to elaborate a bit more, please feel free to do so. Because what's going on through my mind right now, from what I understand from the question for the proxy, is if you're trying to use an Android application and you're trying to say force them to use some form of something like similar to incognito, I don't know if there's a way to do that.
You actually been tracked. I mean, see, incognito just does not get it in your history, but I mean, Google knows what all you are doing. Even the internet operator that you'll be using, let's say if you're in Singapore and using Singtel or StarHub or something, then even they can get very easily what did you search, right? So be careful with that.
Yeah, so I think that would help us to, that will actually lead us to the next question, which is whether is the dark web safe to explore? Because I think if you were to think about how you would define safe, as Haisav shown just now in the slides, for many of these nodes, if you really want to track from one source to the end, you have to go through the hoops, the whole circuit, but it's not impossible, it's just time consuming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So is it safe to explore? For if you were to access some dubious sites a lot of times, then maybe it's not safe for you. If you were to explore sites in general,
yeah, I mean, you can go for the easy ones that we normally see, right? Even I showed you the NUS website. It's okay for you to go and there.
Yeah.
There's nothing fishy there. And to be honest, if let's say one is trying to, do something malicious or something, be a little tech savvy, have a little knowledge of, what is coming in, or maybe you can use what do you say, a sandbox environment or something like that, so that it is more secure for you, right? Because if something comes in, maybe like I have been to websites as a part of my curriculum, as a part of my projects as well, that where you just click on the website and a malware gets downloaded with a file, and that too in a jiffy. So we need to be very careful there, and that's where using some sandbox comes in, and that is nice actually.
Yeah, so I think to build on the point that Haisav has, which is if you're really gonna try and explore the dark web, use something like a virtual machine. So if you really get a virus, at most your virtual machine is compromised and you can tear down your virtual machine. Don't, or at least try not to use it on your own machine, because yeah, if you were to download something that encrypts your data, then you have to pay Bitcoin. I think that would be a very sad situation to be in. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's the highest voted one, but we're gonna go like from low to high, I guess. So with HTTPS, what can the ISP or VPN see? So there's this module called Introduction to Computer Networking. What it teaches you is how network packets are transmitted across the internet. So you can think of it really as building something onto a packet itself. What they can see is it depends on where they are in this so-called pipeline. If they are just between your application and the next layer, then they can probably see everything that you send. But if they are somewhere a lot lower, then they can only see the so-called hash version, or yeah, the hash version of what they have. Yeah. Haisav, you have anything you want to add on to this?
I mean, if you can just say, I mean, you go on with a search that HTTP and HTTPS. If you see the difference is just a secure socket layer, which is there. And if you are asking what does typically the ISP or the VPN operator sees, it is more like what IP is it getting connected? What is the geographical location of it? They do not see anything which you browse directly. But let's say if a thing comes in, because I have worked with the Indian government, the Indian police solved some cases. So let's say if the police demands something like this, I mean, I'm just assuming that all the countries, it's one, I mean, similar, if not exactly the same. So they can give the data if it is required, or if there's some serious crime which is happening. So normally they don't check all this because there are a lot of users, to be honest. But yeah, your ISP and your VPN operators do know what is the IP address, what is the MAC address coming in. And if you want some further exploration, they can do it, right? They can trace the contact to you back. They can contact the companies from whom you purchase the services or something like that. So yeah.
Okay. Yes. I hope you did not ask that question with some malicious intent. Yeah. Okay, cool. So I guess we will go to that last question. Give me a sec. So how do servers authenticate passwords if SOP and hash reference different results for the same password? We were actually like debating on whether we want to add more to the slides, because any more would be kind of it will be a bit harder to digest, but I will try and give a high level overview, which is from your hash itself, you can derive some form of sort. So if I were to try and use something that we mostly will be familiar with, it would be something like a math equation, which pretty much is all hash anyway. So you use that math equation, you get some form of result. Then from that result, that is your so-called hash. If we were to go back to the slide, there's this like rounds thing, right? The rounds is actually about 2 to the power of x rounds.
Should I go back there?
Sure, but I think like, yeah.
Okay, I mean, your wish.
Yeah. Long story short, hashing of your password gets something. Your salt is derived from hashing. Then the rounds does something to make sure that your hash and your salt are all different. And how does the server authenticate, right? If you're a developer, use something called .verify, because that's the inbuilt function that can really save you all the trouble. But if you want to understand, you have to go and search a bit about all the algorithms that are used by the libraries. So like today we're using bcrypt, and that is built on Blowfish algorithm. If you were to use some other library, then they will have some other algorithm behind them, and that could result in a different hash and a different salt and a different method to go about doing the hash of the password. So yeah, it's really a condensed version because there's a lot to it. Yeah. And
I mean, there's a whole module on it.
Yeah, and I guess I will do a plug for CS2107. So if you're interested in all these stuff, go down the intro into cybersecurity module, where once you get an introduction to all the cybersecurity concepts that we have today, and even more, for example, how can you use logic to derive some very bad password schemes, where you can maybe just use an XOR of 2 ciphertexts and you can get back the original password, for example. Actually, no, but yeah, something like that, right? So you can go down and explore these modules where you can learn a lot more. And yeah, if that's something that interests you, please consider a career in cybersecurity, because we need a lot of smart people like Haisav. Yeah. Yeah.
Just kind of that. And you know, just before ending, I'd like to show a quick fact to all of you. So let's say if you write Tor browser, and let's see the images. So you will get something like this, right? And it is probably known as the onion browser. So you know, just a quick fact that why this is onion, because you know, onion has many layers to it. And once you keep on peeling all the layers and you get on to the bottommost, you don't find anything. So that's the analogy that, you know, the creators of Tor browser originally used, and how the .onion links came into picture and stuff like that. So I mean, this is just a fun fact, just to know. And anyways, like even after the workshop, you have some doubts, you have some questions, connect with DSC anyways, connect with us on LinkedIn. We will be very active there. And feel free to drop in all the queries, your feedbacks, whichever you have on the workshop. So yeah, and
Oh, Haisav, could you show the slides? Because I think we will do a plug for our upcoming events.
oh yes, absolutely. And please stay tuned. We'll be taking a group photo also.
Oh,
Yeah, don't run off, people. It's important for us as speakers.
yeah. Okay, so just to maybe introduce our next upcoming workshop a bit. So on 10th Jan, we're going to have a workshop on building a portfolio website. So I think many of you, if you might have the intention to create like this website for yourself, where you can showcase your projects or showcase how good a UI designer you are, you might want to join this workshop as well, which is going to be on 10th Jan. So do mark that date down if you're interested and scan the QR code for it. So next slide. And yes, thank you so much for attending. This workshop is recorded and it will be available on our DSC NUS YouTube channel. Yeah.